Hi, I'm Laura and welcome to class today. Today's class is going to be a beginner's workout with a resistance band. So have your resistance band at the ready, and I have a medium strength resistance band. You can go lighter, which is going to be challenging, but also a little bit easier through some exercises, and you can go heavier, which is going to be challenging, but again easier in some. So just have a medium one. We're in the middle, okay? And then I've got a rolled up towel. The rolled up towel is just going to help assist through some of the exercises that we're going to be doing today. So have it handy just even if you don't use it, okay? So grab those props and then we're ready to go. But just before we do, we want to make sure that as we go through the workout today, we're being kind to our bodies and we're choosing the options that feel good for our bodies. And we're choosing alternatives or taking a break whenever we need. And if you do have any injuries or health conditions, please seek advice before taking part in the class. So grab your resistance band and let's get going. So coming to the bottom of your mat, we're going to take the band around the soles of the feet. And just lining up the heels so they're about sit bones distance, the knees are the same width as the feet. And we're going to check that we're sitting right up on top of our sitting bones. So we're checking that we're not tipping the pelvis backwards, we're not slouching back, and we're not arching the back and leaning forwards over the thighs. So those two bony landmarks at the bottom of the pelvis want to feel heavy and even. And if we just have a look down at our pelvis, and we can see that the three bones at the front of the pelvis that create our pelvic triangle are parallel to the wall in front, okay? So drawing the shoulders back and down, and just take a moment to grow tall through your spine. So taking a deep breath in and deep breath out. Find the thoracic breath, so breathing into the sides and the back of your rib cage. Really feeling the expansion on your in breath and the narrowing of the rib cage on your out breath. Now, as we breathe in, feel the crown of your head grow taller up to the ceiling. Feel the tailbone and the sit bones draw down towards the floor. So we're creating what we call axial length. And as we next breathe out, I want you to gently lift up on the pelvic floor, gently draw in the navel towards the spine, connecting with the deep abdominal muscles, and then continue to breathe. So the challenge with thoracic breathing is to keep the breath into the rib cage so that we're then allowing the deep abdominal muscles to stay engaged. Because if we breathe into the belly, it's impossible to keep the navel to the spine, engaging the transverse abdominis and the pelvic floor lifted. So keeping with this breathing and checking into that breath as we go through the workout, we're going to start to move the pelvis now. So on your next out breath, I'd like you to curl the tailbone under, tip your pelvis backwards, as if you're trying to tip your pelvic triangle to your chest. And then on your in breath, you're going to tip your pelvis back to neutral, so bringing your pelvic triangle parallel to the wall in front, and you're stacking back on top of your sitting bones. So using your out breath to do a backwards tilt of the pelvis, using your in breath to come back to neutral. So we're trying to keep the shoulders nice and quiet. Now, as we tip the pelvis backwards, we're trying to avoid rounding through the upper back at the moment. So we're just isolating the movement at the pelvis and the lumbar spine, the lower back. Keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed, and I focus on keeping my eye gaze forwards towards an imaginary horizon. And my collarbones wide, equally as wide as my upper back. Now we're going to start to increase this range of movement. So we're going to start to tip the pelvis back and then start to roll back a little bit further, and where you have hold of the band is going to determine on how much help you have on the way back. So just going to where you can and then rolling forwards. Now this time we bring the shoulders over the hips, so we're in more of a C shape, and then we stack from the pelvis, bring it back to neutral and grow tall. Now the closer you hold your hands towards your feet, the more resistance you're going to have on the band, so more help you're going to have on the way back and on the way up. Now we're going to keep going with this. So using your out breath to roll back, let's inhale to hold wherever you go to, and use your out breath, that feeling of chest bone curling forwards, the front bottom ribs sliding towards the pelvis, to roll forwards. So on the way back, when we roll back, we initiate from the pelvis. The spine flexes, it rounds. Now on the way forwards, as we exhale, we lead with the rib cage. So the front bottom ribs slide down as if you're doing an abdominal curl, the chest rolls forwards, and then we restack the spine. Now with this exercise, we can go as far back as our spine allows us. And sometimes it's not the strength of the abdominals that restricts us from doing that. Sometimes it's the mobility of our spine. And the towel, the rolled up towel that we have today, can help you with that. So maybe we get stuck when we get to the lower back, that what I call the sticking point, and it's really difficult to come up, and the only way that you can come up is to rock yourself up or push yourself up. I'm just going to get rid of the band for a moment so I can show you where the towel would go. So wherever you're the tightest, your towel will go on that part of your spine. So say if mine was my lower back, it would be down here. You can move it wherever you need. So as we roll back, what this is going to give is something for your spine to press against. Okay, it's going to make it easier for you to come up. So wherever you're the tightest in your spine, you place your towel. So what this is going to help to do is open up the back body of the spine, give our abdominals something to engage against. Okay, we're just going to do one more of these. And as we roll up, I'd like you to stay there. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of the towel. I don't need the towel, but it's just to show you how we can use it on the roll back or the roll down. Now sitting up really, really tall, draw the shoulder blades back and down. And we're going to begin with a rowing action. So on your next out breath, start to pull back on the band, turn the palms up and draw the elbows into the waist. Draw the shoulder blades narrow on the upper back. On your in-breath, reach the arms forwards. Now keep going with the action of the arms. And the challenge here is to make sure the chest stays wide. We feel that retraction of the shoulder blades, that draw in towards the spine. And we're not leaning back with the force of pulling. We're trying to keep the rib cage stacked over the pelvis, the head and neck on top of the rib cage and the shoulders. And in fact, when I pull my arms back, I think of growing taller up to the ceiling. Think of growing taller and almost trying to reach my chest forwards through my arms a little bit. Now we're going to change this, we're going to make this into a single arm row. So we're going to pull one arm back and then release. Now when we do unilateral or one-sided exercises, this is going to challenge our rotational forces on our torso. So the body's going to want to rotate towards the arm that pulls back. We've got to resist that and keep our chest facing forwards. Okay, keep the arm that's not moving reaching forwards and nice and straight. Now on our next repetition, we're going to start to rotate. So as we draw the arm back, start to turn the chest bone. The chest bone leads, the other arm reaches forwards and turn the head. Inhale to reach forwards, exhale to rotate to the opposite side. So we initiate this movement by drawing the shoulder blade into the spine. The side that we're rotating to, the same side of the rib cage draws back, the opposite side draws forwards. So we get this counter rotation through the rib cage and through the pelvis. So I think of turning my chest to the side, almost trying to turn my pelvis to the opposite side of the room. Now this is our next and last one. And as we reach forwards, we're going to just round the body forwards and take a little stretch for the spine. Okay, band comes off the feet for the moment. And just pop it to the side of your mat. And we're going to make our way all the way onto our back. So use your towel if you need to. Use your roll down or your roll back to come all the way down to the mat. Bring your feet in. So heels in line with sitting bones, knees in line with the feet. Bring the hands to the front of the pelvis and bring your pelvis to neutral. So level your 2 pelvic bones and your pubic bone. And we should feel the back of the pelvis, the sacrum heavy, the lower back, the lightest part of the spine, the rib cage heavy, the shoulders relaxed and the head heavy on the mat. Eye gaze is forwards on the ceiling in front of you, okay? And we're going to bring our arms to the sides of the mat. We're going to come into some shoulder bridging, so make sure that you've not got a block or something to support underneath the head at the moment. And on your next out breath, so find your thoracic breathing, and as you breathe out, deepen your contraction of the abdominal muscles, tip your pelvis backwards, round the lower back to the mat, and then start to curl the tailbone, the sacrum, the lower back, the mid back, maybe the rib cage up off the ground. You're just going to come to a height in your shoulder bridge that is good for you. Now feeling that the knees and thighs reach forwards, the pelvis tips back, so the pubic bone really scoops up to the ceiling, the navel draws in, and the ribs are relaxed down. On your next out breath, start to release the back ribs down. Keep that draw in of the navel, the tip back of your pelvis, because that's going to help open up the back bones of the body. Let the pelvis on your in-breath release to neutral. Let's do this 3 more times. So we're rolling up and down through the spine, trying not to miss any vertebrae. So if you notice that you've got a tighter part of your spine, maybe the vertebrae, a couple of vertebrae want to lift together, can you really focus on that backwards tilt, the abdominal control to find that segmental control of your spine? Okay. Now as we do bridge, I try and think of increasing my axial length, so the length from the crown of my head to the tailbone. So as we roll up and down, try and lengthen the 2 ends of your spine away from each other, really creating space between each vertebrae. Now we've got 1 more here, and the next time we come down, find neutral and stay there. So we've done a bridge, which is an articulating bridge, the rolling through the spine. Now we're going to do a neutral bridge. So keeping the spine and the pelvis in neutral, press straight down into the feet and push the pelvis up to the ceiling. Send the pelvis straight down, so as if you're doing a squat. Send the hips down, crease at the hips and land. So we push up and we lower down. Now moving from the sit bone area, so to lift, think of tightening the sit bones, and to lower, think of the sit bones widening towards the floor. And we'll just notice how the back of the pelvis and the back of the rib cage finds the mat at around about the same time. But it's a feeling of trying to get the tailbone to land first. That's going to help us to prevent the pelvis from tipping back and rolling down. Okay, so 2 different actions for the same exercise, bridge. Okay, we're going to do 4 more of these. So pushing up, really try and work the back of your hips, the back of your legs. And keep your arms nice and relaxed on the floor, so not creating tension in areas of the body that we don't need it. Okay, we've got 1 more, guys. Now when we come back down, draw your shoulders into the mat. Bring 1 leg and the other into the chest. And we're going to bring ourselves back up to sitting. So curl up the head and the shoulders, press the legs into the arms, and slowly as you can, come all the way back up. Grab your band. Your band is now going to go just around your right foot, okay? So flexing both feet, same setup as the roll back before. Lift the chest up high. Take a deep breath in. On your next out breath, tip the pelvis back. We're going to go back to our point of control with or without our towel. And then we're going to roll back up. Chest leads, reach forwards with the arms. It's almost as if the resistance band is pulling or helping us pull us up. Sit tall. We've got 2 more. So rolling back. How far can you tip your pelvis back? And how does it feel different after we've done our bridge? Now this time when we roll back, this is our second one, we're going to stay all the way down. So we've really got to fight that curling of the pelvis and not to drop down to the floor. Okay, start to walk your heels in. Place your left foot down. Draw the pelvis, the back of the pelvis and the rib cage heavy into the mat, and lift the right leg up to tabletop. So here is where, if you need support at the back of the head, grab your towel, grab your block. Because what we want to make sure here is that we've got our pelvis level, so we can have a little look. 3 bones at the front of the pelvis are equal and level. We've got the rib cage down. So if the rib cage is really difficult to bring down without tipping the head back, without creating tension in the neck and the shoulders, that's an indication that you need support at the back of your head. So find your thoracic breathing. Just bring your arms down to the side of the mat, the elbows, the shoulders, and hold on to the band. Okay? Now finding your thoracic breathing, deep core connection, navel to spine, pelvic floor lifts. On your next out breath, push through the band and extend your right leg. You're trying to extend so that the knees and the thighs become level with each other. Inhale to bend back to tabletop. So we're pushing against resistance, and what's happening at the knee and the hip is that we're extending. So when the leg reaches and straightens, that's extension through the hip and the knee. Now the muscles to extend the hip are the glutes and the hamstrings, the back of the hip and the thigh. So I want you to visualize the sitting bone area on the right side contracting as you push the leg out. We often feel this action through the front of the thigh, through the quadricep. So what we want to try and do is take our mind to the muscle that we want to work, the back of the hip and the hamstring. Okay, we want to know where we're working from so that we can try and get those muscles engaged. I remember when I first started Pilates, my quads, front of my thigh did all the work. It's almost like I didn't even know what my glute was. So sometimes it takes a while to get the muscles activated, but really focusing on that contraction will help. Now the next time you extend all the way out, we're going to stay there and we're going to open the leg out to the side. So before we do, draw the left hip down, exhale to open, inhale to close. Now keeping tension out the neck and the shoulders. Can you bring that heaviness into the back ribs and the pelvis? So we're making sure that we're not efforting areas that we don't need in our body. Now at the moment the band is assisting this action. So I want you to try and let go of the hip. We don't want no gripping. Okay, we're going to feel the outer and the inner thigh. And we want to feel that we're engaging and focusing on the core connection. So can you keep the back of the pelvis and the rib cage heavy into the mat? And especially now, can we keep the left hip heavy to prevent the pelvis from rotating to the right? Now last repetition, take an in breath and float the leg over the hip. Keep the leg as straight as you can. So it's going to lift to where it can without allowing your pelvis to tip back and your lower back to be on the ground. So imagine your sitting bones at the back of your pelvis or the bottom of your pelvis dropping down and the lower back staying off the mat. Now on your next out breath, we press with the back of the leg and the hip, lower it towards the ground, and then inhale, lift it up, drop the sitting bone into the floor. So we want to make sure that the pelvis doesn't rock forwards as the leg lowers, and it doesn't rock back as the leg lifts. The more we stabilize the pelvis, the more we're going to challenge the hip extensors, the glutes, the hamstrings, and we're going to challenge the flexibility of our hamstrings on the way up. Now 2 more. And then on the second one, when we lift, let's stay here. Lift the leg to your point of control so that the leg is straight. Now bring the left foot underneath the left knee, or as close to underneath the knee as you possibly can. Take a deep breath in. On your out breath, neutral bridge. So push down into the left foot, push straight up into the right foot. And then lower. Inhale, exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower. Now left sitting bone area, push up. What I want to happen now is the ribs are going to want to push up. Keep relaxing the ribs. Push and focus at the back of your left hip. And think of lifting your right hip up. And reaching up to the ceiling with my right leg helps with that. So we want to keep the pelvic bones level. And last 2. Now last 1. We're going to stay up. We're going to lower the leg if we can. Lift it up. And lower. And lift. Just 2 more. Lower. And lift. Last 1. Lower. Lift. Now lower the pelvis down. Bend the right knee and place the foot on the mat. Place the left foot a bit further away. Flex the feet. Take a deep breath in. Reach the arms down. Curl the head and shoulders up. And if we can, we're going to roll up to sitting. And we're going to switch legs. So take the band around the left foot now. And then when we're ready, we're going to start to roll back. So take a deep breath in. Exhale, curl the pelvis under. Go as far back as you can. Now remember, on the way up, we lead with the chest. The chest rounds forwards. Once we find shoulders over the pelvis, we restack the spine. So more resistance, the further we hold towards the foot on the band, the more we're going to get help on the way back, help on the way up. Now this time when we roll back, we're going to roll all the way down if we can. And we're going to start to walk the feet in. Place the right sole of the foot down. Draw the pelvis and the rib cage down. Just check your alignment. Grab what you need underneath your head. Deepen your core connection to lift and float the left leg up. Okay? So I like to have in this position the end of my band out of the thumb part of my hand, just because it makes it easier and kinder for my wrist. Okay? So we want to keep the wrist and the forearm aligned. So deepen the right hip. Check that we're not allowing the pelvis to rotate. On your next out breath, deepen the left sit bone. Push the leg out. And then inhale, bend back in. So we're driving from the bottom. Remember, the muscle is going to work if our mind goes there. So let's really think about that sitting bone area. The right foot's just going to be heavy, the leg is going to be relaxed, and I try and reach through the heel of my left leg to try and encourage the back of our leg to work a little bit more. So it really does take a lot of mind and body connection. So this is where Pilates requires that mind-body connection, us to focus on what the body's doing and not just go through the motion. Okay, if we go through the motion, we're probably not going to find the muscle connection, and then we're not going to build strength. So the next time our leg reaches out, we're going to stay out, keep that connection at the back of the hip and the back of the thigh. We're going to open out to the side, so drop the right hip down. How still can you keep your pelvis? And if you want to, you can always bring your hands to the front of your pelvis, still holding on to the resistance band. So using your hands and touch for feedback is really great to know what your body is doing, because sometimes the body does something and we're not even aware of it because it is a habit. Okay, so we're just going to do 3 more. Exhaling out, inhaling in. How still can you keep your body? And it might be that your leg doesn't go too far out, because if it does, the pelvis moves. Now on our last one, we bring the leg in and float the leg up. Inhale, exhale, lower back down. So on the way up with our leg, we're looking for a gentle stretch at the back of the leg. Now if the pelvis tips back and the lower back drops to the mat, we don't then get the stretch. So keep the leg where it is, tip the pelvis forwards, drop the sitting bone down. So if the sitting bone lifts, the hamstring shortens, which doesn't get the stretch. So drop it down to lengthen the hamstring, notice the stretch. And then when you're ready, sit bone area tightens, back of the leg tightens, and we press the leg down and then lift up. So same feeling, we're working the back of the hip and the leg. The band is going to assist the leg on the way up, which is going to give the hip flexors a rest. Okay, often if we're sitting quite a lot, and these days generally we have overworked hip flexors, so we want to try and get the work into the back of the leg. So let's just do 2 more here. And last one. And when the leg lifts, lift to where you can keep the leg straight. Okay? Holding it here, and bring the right foot as close underneath the knee as you can. Sit bone lining up with the sit bone with the heel. And then on your out breath, push down into the right foot, send the pelvis up. And then lower down. Now I know that I'm tighter at the front of my right hip, so if I push to my maximum or to where the left hip lifted to, I know I'm going to be pushing up with my rib cage. So focus on the back of the hip. It doesn't matter how high the pelvis lifts up off the mat. We can work on that by working on connecting with the correct muscles. So we're driving with the hip. The rest of the body is following what's happening. So the spine lifting is following what the pelvis is doing in the right leg. The left leg is reaching up to try and keep the left hip in line with the right hip. And we've got one more, and we're going to stay up this time. We're going to lower down, and we're going to lift, and lower, and lift. So just lower into your point of control without moving the pelvis, lower, and lift. Now hold, slowly lower back down, bend the left knee and lower the foot down. Walk the feet away. I'm going to change the grip on my band. Take a deep breath in, lift the head and shoulders on your out breath and curl all the way back up to sitting. Okay, come around now so that we're coming onto our tummy. I'm going to show you something in this position that we can do with our towel. So before we grab the resistance band, when we come onto our tummy, we've got to check where we are. So legs are always going to be a distance apart where we can let the three bones at the front of the pelvis be level with each other, so neutral. So for me, with tightness at the front of my hips, if I go further together, narrower with my legs, I'm going to find it really difficult to bring my pubic bone down. So go wider. Okay, you can always adjust that during the exercise. It doesn't have to stay the same. You'll always adjust when you need to. Now when we start to come into a back bend, into extension of the spine, what we want to make sure is that we're able to keep the belly lifting towards the lower back. So the lower belly becomes quite light on the mat. Now if you've got quite a curvy lower back, I have as well, and the belly remains heavy on the floor, we get the lower back muscles overworking. So when we start to then come into extension, we're not going to feel the upper back, the upper postural muscles. We're going to feel the lower back doing all the work. So, good trick. Have your towel, place it along your mat, and then lay the belly across that towel. So what this helps is lifts the lower back, okay? It helps to lengthen the lower back. So then we can use the abdominal muscles as well, which is going to lengthen out the lower back more. And I'm actually going to keep this here today. Now we're going to grab our band, and we're going to take the band in our hands. Okay, we're going to rest our body back down. The band is going to be underneath the chin, and we're going to rest our arms into a W position, forehead to the mat. So line the legs to a position that's best for you. Pubic bone slightly heavier than your two pelvic bones. Shoulders away from the ears. Feel the legs energized, so they're long, they're reaching, but we're not squeezing the glutes, okay? So let's relax them by first of all squeezing them as tight as you can. And then releasing them all of a sudden. Okay. Now as we deepen the pubic bone, we're going to feel how the glutes engage very slightly. Now the belly lifts up away from the floor, away from the towel if you've got a towel there. So the pubic bone's heavy, the two pelvic bones are still on the mat lightly, and the front bottom ribs, the chest and the forehead are down. Next time when you inhale, hover your forehead and then start to gently peel the upper chest off the ground. Shoulders draw down. Can you keep the pubic bone heavy and the belly lifting and lightening from the ground? And then lower the chest back down. So let's keep going with this. And just check that when we're lifting the chest, we're not lifting too high. We're just allowing the chest to lift, the upper back to work. And we're not allowing the lower belly to press down into the floor. because that would bring an arch to the lower back and lots of working the lower back muscles. So it's not bad for the lower back muscles to work, we want them to be strong, but they tend to overwork if we've naturally got an arch in the lower back. So we want to counterbalance that by strengthening the upper back. Now we're going to add on this time. So lift the chest and hold. See if you can lift your right arm without changing anything in your body. Lower the arm down and lower the chest, changing sides. So we're making sure that the chest isn't turning towards the lifting arm. Chest is staying square to the floor. And we're not allowing one side of the pelvis to become heavier than the other. So if this does challenge your alignment, reduce how high you lift your chest and how high you lift your arm. Or you can keep your arm on the ground and keep practicing your swan prep. Now, after this next two, we're going to challenge this a little bit more. So remember, see what your body needs. Can you still stabilise your lower back by lifting the belly up? So if we're losing all those things, then come back to simplify the exercise. So we lift the right arm, and without really pulling on the band, we reach the arm a little bit further forward if we can. Bend the arm, lower the arm and the chest. So lift, and we're just going to do 3 more. So we're challenging now our shoulder stability by extending the arm. So not allowing the shoulders to lift up to the ear, by sending the shoulder blade down the back. The left side this time is our last one. So bending the arm, lowering the chest, release the band, bring your hands by your shoulders and press up and back. Sit into a child's pose, so hips to heels, arms stretch forwards. Really enjoy that stretch of the back body of the muscles that we've just worked. And then walking your hands to the right side of the mat, reach long through the arms and back with the hips. And then let's go over to the other side. So slowly walk your hands over, hips go back, stretch the hips and the arms opposite directions. Breathe into that lengthened and open side of your body. And then walking your hands back to the centre. Start to roll it through your spine. So feel the belly draw to the wall behind. Walk your hands in and come all the way back up. We end up in a sitting position. Take a deep breath in, reach the arms up. And exhale, lower them back down. And just one more time. And release. And thank you very much for joining me today. I hope to see you soon for the next classes. Take care. Bye.